Good evening. I call this meeting to order. It's the regular City Council meeting of December 11th, 2017. The time is 7:30 p.m. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Bliss.
I'm here.
Councilman Corbett.
Here.
Councilman Gettings.
Here.
Councilor Grafstein. Here. Councilwoman Scott. Here. Councilman Soltis.
Here.
Mayor Hartwell.
Yes, I'm here. Would you please rise, if you're able, for an invocation to be led by Councilwoman Scott, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Let us pray that strength and courage be abundantly given to all who work for a world of reason and understanding. We ask that the good that lies in all our hearts may day by day be magnified, so that we will come to see more clearly not that which divides us, but that which unites us. We ask that the true spirit of this holiday season, its joy, its beauty, its hope, and above all, its abiding faith, may live among us. May the blessings of peace be ours, the peace to build and grow, to live in harmony and sympathy with others, and to plan for the future with confidence. We ask this in your name.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, we can go meeting open to the public. Would anyone like to address City Council on any issue? Now is the opportunity. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Gloria Moore, 27368 Dartmouth. There's three things I'd like to talk about. One of them is Friends of the Madison Heights Area Senior Citizens is having another third Tuesday meeting December 19th at 7 p.m. over at Wilkinson Middle School. Beverages and snacks are on us. Also, the Forthright Motorcycle Club is having their annual coat drive, and it's, the dates that are left is the 16th and 17th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and that's at 702 West 11 Mile Road. And also, the other thing that I want to talk about is the possibility of a two-tier system for the DDA, where obviously the business people have most of the positions on the DDA now, maybe a second chamber or second tier or whatever with residents, since the residents have to live in whatever the decisions are being made. Thank you.
Thank you. Meeting's open to the public. Would anyone else like to address City Council? All right, no one's asked to be recognized. So we can go to communications. We have two tonight. The first one is from Ms. Ferries regarding a resignation from several boards and commissions. Mr. Myers, do you have a report?
Briefly, Your Honor, yes. Member of the Elected Officials Compensation Commission, Historical Commission, and Multicultural Relations Advisory Board, Flora Ferries, has submitted her letter of resignation from these boards and commissions. Staff and I recommend that Council accept the resignations and declare the seats vacant.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Mrs. Scott?
I move for council to accept the resignations and declare the seat vacant for the Elected Officials Compensation Commission, Historical Commission, and the Multicultural Relations Advisory Board, and that a certificate of appreciation for her dedicated service be issued.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Corbett? Support. Thank you. Any discussion on this item to accept the resignation, declare the seats vacant, and issue a certificate? All right, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion carries. The next communication is C2 from the Elected Officials Compensation Commission. Mr. Myers?
Yes, Your Honor. At the Elected Officials Compensation Commission meeting held on November 28th, the Commission authorized a salary order which provides for a 2% salary increase for Mayor and Council effective January 8th, 2018. Council's options include receiving and filing the salary order with the City Clerk, which would implement the Commission's order effective 30 days from the date of filing, or to reject the salary order in whole or in part, which requires a 2/3 supermajority vote.
Thank you. What's the wish of City Council on this item? Any motions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Corbett?
I'll move to receive and file.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Scott?
a second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on receiving and filing the salary order resolution from the Elected Officials Compensation Commission?
Your Honor?
Mr. Bliss?
Yes. So this is now the second straight increase that the commission has put forward, and I understand the reasoning. We've given the employees a salary increase, and so I think that in both cases, I think only one person voted against the salary increase in the election commission meeting, and it's hard to sometimes go against a board, but I look at all the things that we could do with even just the small savings, the small difference here. We talk about the successful voucher program for the splash pad that allowed low-income families to enjoy that for free. I mean, how many additional vouchers could we buy if we don't put forward this increase here today? And so I'd like to make a substitute motion to reject the salary order in whole.
Okay, is there a second for this, the alternate motion to reject in whole made by Mr. Bliss?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to second the rejection motion.
Okay, Mrs. Grafstein. Any discussion on this alternate motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, seconded by Councilor Grafstein to reject in whole? All right, no discussion. I have to do a roll call vote because I need to tally. The only way for this substitute motion to win is we need 5 affirmative votes. If there's any less than 5 affirmative votes, the alternate motion will fail. So any discussion? All right, will the clerk take the vote? The vote will be yes if you reject in whole, or no if you don't reject in whole. Does that make sense? Did I state that properly?
Yes.
Okay. We'll vote, please.
Councilman Gettings.
No.
Councilor Grafstein.
Yes.
Councilwoman Scott.
No.
Councilman Soltis.
No.
Mayor Pro Tem Bliss.
Yes.
Councilman Corbett.
Yeah, pardon me. This is the substitute?
Yeah, this is the substitute to reject.
My apologies, no.
Thank you, sir.
No. Mayor Hartwell.
I vote yes. So the substitute motion only received 3 votes, so it fails. And so we're back to the original motion, which was made by Councilman Corbett, seconded by Councilwoman Scott to receive and file. Is there any final discussion on the original motion? All right. I'm afraid there may be a split vote again, so Council, will you please indulge another roll call vote? So this is the original motion. A yes vote is to receive and file the salary order resolution. A no vote is to not receive and file. So will the clerk take the vote?
Councilor Grafstein.
No.
Councilwoman Scott.
Yes.
Councilman Soltis.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bliss.
No.
Councilman Corbett.
Yes.
Councilman Gettings.
Yes.
Mayor Hartwell.
I vote yes. The original motion carries 5-2. So we'll go on to reports in the agenda. D1, it's a report from the police chief regarding the city council goal of collaborating with the Troy Special Investigations Unit. Mr. Myers, do you have a report?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The fiscal year 2018 adopted goal plan includes a goal to assign 1 police officer to the Troy Police Department Special Investigations Unit. In order for the city of Madisonites to officially join the Troy Police Department's SIU, along with the other participating agencies, City Council is required to approve the attached interlocal agreement and binder agreement. The City Attorney's Office has reviewed the interlocal agreement, binder agreement, and the resolution which adopts those, and they have approved all as drafted. Staff and I recommend that Council approve the resolution and authorize the City Manager and the Chief of Police to sign the binder agreement on behalf of the City of Madison Heights. And I would note that once this is signed, the agreement will be forwarded to all the participating agencies for their approval.
Okay, thank you. What's the wish of City Council?
Your Honor,
Yes, Mr. Bliss?
I move that we adopt the interlocal binder agreement with the City of Troy SIU. Anna, do you need signing by the mayor and clerk on behalf?
Your Honor, yeah, that's city manager and chief of police. And,
Okay.
And would that be
and
would be
authorize the city manager and the chief of police to sign on the city's behalf?
And that would be the resolution, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Corbett?
support.
All right, any discussion on this item?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I just want to acknowledge the efforts of Councilman Soltis over the past few years in this area and the rest of council. And thank you very much to the chief for your leadership in this area. It was a goal that meant a lot to the people at this table. And like I said, I want to single out Dave Soltis, but certainly everybody up here deserves their credit for it. That's it. That's all. Thank you, sir.
I would like to hear from the chief of police. I support this. Thank you for preparing this report. Would the chief or maybe someone else please explain how many agencies are involved in this collaboration? And secondly, what type of investigations or work will our officer be involved in?
There will be 7 total cities that are going to be involved in this once we join. I couldn't name them all, but I can tell you that Royal Oak, obviously Troy, Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham, and a couple of others are part of the group. What our officer would specifically be doing is working with the rest of the group and working on crimes that have been committed in our cities or that have reached into our cities. Specifically, they would be developing tips given from the various detective bureaus of all the cities assigned, and they would operate off that information to locate, track down suspects, and then make arrests for those crimes.
Am I correct to assume it's really just about old-fashioned communication where, I mean, crime doesn't stay in one city. Crime may cross the city border. And so this is another tool to just keep the hotline fresh between cities?
Absolutely. And it gives a better chance for all of our detective bureaus to coordinate their efforts as well so that we're not all chasing the same target at different times.
Oh, okay. Excellent. Other discussion from City Council? Thank you, Chief.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Before you,
Yes, please.
just a question, though, on the on a hypothetical situation. Let us say they were pursuing something going on in Madison Heights. Is it normally the local municipality's responsibility to provide backup? I would assume potentially you may detail regular uniformed officers to support any operation.
We would certainly be.
I'm going to the overtime on this, by the way, in case you're wondering where this question is going.
Most of it would be supported with on-staff officers. There would be, I'm sure there's going to be a few occasions where we may need to have additional officers, on staff and available. I haven't seen that, though, with this unit and the investigation I've done with it. It's a pretty large crew. There's 7 officers assigned to it. They're able to handle pretty much everything that they need. If they need a uniform presence, then, the individual jurisdictions send cars where they're needed.
The proposal that we're adopting, or that we have actually implemented through the budget now this evening, is the overtime factored in, or is that something that we're going to have to live with for the first couple of years to see where it comes in at?
The overtime for the officer that's assigned to the unit is factored in.
Well, but no, I was thinking of the support, if any support staff was required.
No, that hasn't been factored in.
Hypothetically, you're staking out my house because I'm doing something, and I'm not doing it fast enough, and you have to put a support unit somewhere nearby because I'm a known felon or something. I'm wondering about that. Could that be an influence, having to divert resources, or do you feel comfortable that the plan?
I mean, it always could be, but I would liken it to anything that would happen to come into our border on any other given day anyway. If Royal Oak happened to have an incident that crossed into Madison Heights jurisdiction, we'd be sending cars to that like we would anything else. I don't think this will be any more of a burden, if that's what you're asking. I really don't see that being a burden at this point.
I'll try not to involve myself in radar.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Might be too late.
Yeah, it could be too late. Thanks for the support down there. Thank you.
Your Honor.
Yes, please.
Real quick, we met with the chief from Troy. Fantastic guy. He's got years and years of experience under his belt, and he knew exactly the vision that he had to achieve the goals that were set. Can you go into, Chief, a little bit how this Special Investigations Unit complements the undercover, the FBI one, and the differences? I know that the Troy Chief was talking about that this particular one deals with more possible gang activity, local stuff where they kind of get other guys to rat out, part of their group and so forth. And they come from different cities and different areas other than here, obviously. If you could elaborate.
Yeah, I think where I'd start with that is most of council remembers we started out with a goal for our Special Investigations Unit, the one that we had here based in the city, that was comprised then of a sergeant and 2 officers. We really have felt the strain of not having that unit. We've had a lot of issues with our hotels. We've had a lot of drug issues that have continued to climb and escalate, even though we have an officer assigned to the narcotics enforcement team. There's only so much that one individual unit can do. So is one of the goals, what we put forth from the police department is to branch out into some of these units that are some more specified, but have a lot more reach. The first one that we started with was the FBI Violent Crimes Task Force. And that has been simply amazing. The things that they have done and the crimes that they have thwarted and the crimes that they've solved. We just recently had a large human trafficking bust, and we had even a larger bust with the opioid crisis that we're in the middle of. They were able to make several arrests of people that have been charged with actually murder of people that were given the fentanyl-laced heroin. So that kind of on that level, the FBI task force is a large collaboration of departments along with the federal government, along with the state government, where we have farther reaching powers and we can handle a lot of the bigger incidents. And when we need more people, we can get them at a moment's notice, especially in heavier investigations. The blend at Troy SIU now is more of a local issue of some of the crimes that we have locally that, again, Councilman Corbett spoke to. Crime doesn't know any borders. And all of our cities that are part of this collaboration have the same crimes occurring, generally by the same people, just at different times, different days of the week. So by branching off into the Troy SIU, we cover another part that we weren't able to cover previously by handling some of our local crimes with our local agencies. And like you said, it doesn't know any borders, so we're able to really reach out. All of the officers in that unit are also Oakland County deputized, so they'll have a little bit more reaching powers as well to hopefully knock down some of the crime that we're seeing spike here in the city.
Thank you. Other discussion from City Council? All right, we have a motion that was made by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss, seconded by Councilman Corbett, to adopt the resolution regarding the interlocal agreement cooperating with the Troy Police Department Special Investigations Unit and authorizing the city manager and police chief to sign on behalf of the city. All in favor signified by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion carries. Next on the agenda will be items for future public hearings, and we have one. It's item E1, Ordinance 2123. Mr. Myers, do you have a report?
I do, Your Honor. On November 21st, the Planning Commission recommended an amendment to the zoning ordinance to amend Section 10.511 pertaining to signs and Section 10.516 pertaining to fences. As discussed at several Planning Commission meetings, staff has been monitoring the impact of the Reed Supreme Court decision related to temporary signs. The proposed amendments address how the city regulates and permits temporary signs to conform with the Reed decision. We currently regulate temporary signs based on the type of signs, such as real estate, garage sale, public or charitable, commercial, and non-commercial. This approach runs counter to the essential message of the Reed decision that sign codes must be content neutral. And what that means basically is that if you have to read the sign in order to determine how to regulate it, that's a problem with the decision. Accordingly, the draft amendments regulate temporary signs as a whole, regardless of sign content, establishing an overall square footage of signage permitted as well as locational criteria. In addition, a substitution clause is included for commercial signage which would allow the placement of a non-commercial message on a commercial sign, whether permanent or temporary. This language would essentially allow placement of free speech protected messages on commercial signs. This does not, however, go the other way. Commercial speech is not automatically protected and or permitted in residential districts. Finally, a specific severability clause for the sign section of the zoning ordinance is included as well, and this would be specific to the sign ordinance and is intended to increase the strength of the sign provisions should there be a challenge to any of the sections individually. Specifically, for residential properties, we currently regulate temporary signs as non-commercial signs with a maximum size of 16 square feet and no limit on the number of signs or duration of placement. In addition, 4 garage sale signs are also permitted, both on-site as well as off-site, with 1 permitted in the right-of-way. This is in direct conflict with the Supreme Court decision, as it permits a single type of sign to be located in the public right-of-way based on the sign's content. The proposed amendment regulates temporary signs in residential districts as a total 16 square feet per address, with a specified limit on individual sign height of 4 feet and no limit on the number of signs up to the aggregate 16 square foot total allowed. In non-residential districts, we currently regulate temporary signs for commercial properties via a permit process, allowing up to 4 temporary signs per year per address at a maximum size of 32 square feet. 1 additional sign is permitted for 1 month for a new business, and real estate and construction signs are permitted without permit. The proposed amendment limits temporary signs to a total 16 square feet per address, with a specified limit on individual sign height of 4 feet and a limit of 1 temporary sign up to the 16 square foot total allowed. This approach eliminates the use of sign content as a regulatory device and would allow placement of temporary signs on private property up to a specified overall size limit. It would also eliminate permitting, streamlining the process for businesses with no impact on residents, and I would note that this would be negative in terms of the lost commercial temporary sign permit revenue. In addition, these amendments would eliminate placement of garage sale signs in the public right-of-way, eliminating the disparate treatment of such signs based on its content. Garage sale signs, I would note, are the only non-traffic regulatory signs permitted in the right-of-way. However, the Supreme Court was clear that regulation of temporary signs based solely on sign content would not pass muster. The zoning text amendments also include amendments to the fence regulations that the Planning Commission reviewed at several meetings. The draft amendments address fence locations in the commercial and industrial districts, focusing on the primary concerns of a lack of setbacks, aesthetics, and visibility at drives and walks. These amendments would increase fence setbacks adjacent to roads in both the commercial and industrial districts, as well as prohibit barbed wire fencing in commercial districts, and barbed wire would still be allowed in industrial districts. The proposed amendments reflect all previous Planning Commission comments. The Assistant City Attorney has reviewed the proposed amendments, and staff, the Assistant City Attorney, and I concur with the recommendation of the Planning Commission and recommend that City Council adopt the proposed ordinance 2123 on the first reading and schedule the required public hearing and second reading for the January 8th, 2018 City Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. What's the wish? Let's see. Is there a public hearing today?
No.
Okay. All right. So what's the wish of City Council?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Corbett?
Sir, I move that the council adopt on first reading proposed ordinance 2123 and establish a public hearing which will, on this item, which will occur at the January 8th, 2018 council meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second? Your Honor.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Bliss?
Support.
Thank you. Motion was made by Councilman Corbett, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Bliss to adopt on first reading ordinance 2123 and set a public hearing on the same issue for January 8th, 2018 at the regular City Council meeting, and second reading that same date. Is there discussion? All right, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. All right, that brings us to adoption of the minutes. Can I please have motions regarding the minutes from the joint meeting?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I move that the council approved as printed the minutes of the joint City Council DDA meeting of November 27th, 2017.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Soltis?
Second, please.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion on adopting as printed the minutes from the joint meeting of the council and the DDA from 11/27/17? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion carries. Can I have a motion regarding the minutes from the regular meeting?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Corbett?
Sir, I move that the council approve as printed the regular meeting minutes from November 27th, 2017.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Soltis?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on adopting as printed the minute meetings from the regular meeting of 11/27/17? All right, let's vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, say no. The motion carries. All right, what brings us to appointments? Are there any nominations to our boards and commissions tonight? Okay, hearing none, there's no executive session, so before we adjourn for the year, I'd invite any closing comments from council and staff, and let's begin with Mr. Corbett.
Just 2 items. Drive carefully out there tonight. It's kind of nasty coming down the road. And Merry Christmas to everybody and to all a good night. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Bliss.
Yes, Your Honor. Last week we had a really great meeting of ITAC, and it was excellent because we were able to discuss the board's goals as a part of the goal process. And one thing that I wanted to highlight, I submitted a goal that ITAC was very enthusiastic about, and that's getting more services online. There was a pretty large and vocal chorus on that one, because even something as simple as being appointed to that board, they couldn't do online. There was discussion of emergency parking permits. One of the ITEC members had to go to the police department, pick up something, go home, fill it out, scan it, and then send it back in, or hand deliver it to City Hall. And it's broken if we think that that's how our residents want to interact with the city. I encourage those at home. I encourage my colleagues up here to read the notes from the ITAC meeting. Talk to me. Talk to any member of the ITAC committee about some of those needs. Staff is going to compile a report with some of those potentially low-hanging fruit items for us to be able to adopt into our brand new website that would allow for an easier interface and the ability to do some of those things without having to set foot into City Hall, which, as a modern community, as one that has effectively leveraged technology over the past 4 years, I feel like that's our next step. It's great that we have a better website now, but now we need to empower our residents to be able to do more with that website.
Thank you. Mr. Gettings?
No comments other than I hope the community has a great holiday and a good new year. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. City Attorney, Mr. Sherman?
Same, Your Honor. Happy holidays to everyone, all our residents and families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. City Manager, Mr. Myers?
Ditto.
Great. City Clerk, Ms. Prince?
Same for me. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you. Mrs. Grafstein, any comments?
Just hope everybody enjoys their holidays and drive safe.
Very well. Mrs. Scott?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I was given a message before the meeting, and this was from Donna Mitchell, and she was attempting to have a Christmas dinner organized for those that don't have family or anywhere to go in Madison Heights. And she wanted the dinner to be on Christmas Day, and she was looking for a hall to do this. And maybe a few of the businesses could donate a little so that they would possibly get a gift for each of the young children. And then I had a comment submitted by Gloria Moore that reads, "Senior citizens, homeless or nearly homeless, the needy, the shut-ins, those abandoned by family, those abandoned by the community are vulnerable. City businesses, buildings, services, including the senior centers, are closed during major holidays when they may be needed the most by those who are vulnerable. Discovered, others are thinking of the vulnerable. I believe the timing is too short for Christmas, but future holidays may be planned for." And that was written by Gloria Moore. So, and she signed it, ended with "Merry Christmas." I think this is something that should be considered for next year, because I think that there are several people that are without a happy holiday, and I know that usually there's a group of committee members that take a Christmas dinner to the fire station and the police officers too every year. I thank them for that. I'd also like to thank the Goodfellows for all the work that they did in making sure that children in Madison Heights have a wonderful Christmas and a holiday season. They had a fundraiser, and it was very successful. And I would like to thank them for their constant input into the community and the way that they help others time after time, one of them being Mr. Corbett's wife, Linda. And I'd like to thank her and many others, too. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Soltis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilwoman Scott's right. We are going to provide dinner, Christmas dinner for the police and fire again this year. There will be an article in the newspaper. I think it's coming out this week. If you want to, we encourage holiday cards, thank you cards for the police and fire. They really, really appreciate that. They hang them up and everybody reads them, so they appreciate that. If you want to make a donation of a gift card at Myers or Kroger's or something, that'd be appreciated too. But we are gonna have those meals. The one meal, there's 6 guys for the fire, so they get one meal, and then the police have 3 shifts, so they'll each have a separate meal. So, and Betty Ross is the one that's going to do the cooking. Everybody loves her food, so we appreciate that. Thank you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I'll just keep it brief. Happy holidays, and I hope you and your family are safe. Is there any further business before council tonight? All right, hearing none, the meeting's adjourned.